It's trying to resolve the challenge of the Meisvei. Correct. Correct. That's exactly what's going on. Huh? What a number of ways. What do you mean a number of ways?
I bring in the Gemara which quotes Tana, and then there's another one. But they can never have
we did not
disagreeing with the Tana. You can never have an Gemara directly disagreeing with
correct.
When you bring in a quote of another Tana.
There's numerous ways of resolving the issue. There's numerous ways of resolving an issue when an Amoraic sage seems to be contradicting a Tanaic sage. There's numerous ways of doing that. Right? What are the options?
You throw it out. Throw out the argument.
Throw out the argument, which means what do you mean? How do you throw out the argument? Obviously, you throw out one of the options is to throw out the argument, and one of the options is to concede defeat, right? Conceding defeat is really one of the options, but within throwing out the argument, there's different ways of throwing out the argument. How do you throw out an argument when you have a Tanaic sage that seemingly contradicts a Amoraic sage? How do you throw out the issue? How do you get rid of the issue?
The Amoraic sage brings in another Tanaic sage, and who can directly.
So one of the ways of resolving the issue. One of the ways of resolving the issue is by showing that there is, in fact, a dispute amongst the Tanaic sages. And if there's a dispute amongst the Tanaic sages, then the Amoraic sage has the right to side with one of them over the other. Okay? You understand?
Yes,
that's one. I mean, there is also an option. There's an option to, what's the other option? What's the other option? There's an option to basically show how the Tanaic sage is not, in fact, contradicting the Amoraic sage, and there's various different ways of doing that, but that is an option, in fact. Yeah? Good? What could I do for you? Goofa. You're trying to goof around?
Should I goofa, or should I?
You should goof around.
I should do goofa?
Absolutely. Why shouldn't you do it? Why shouldn't you do it? Of course. What do you mean? What we spoke about yesterday. Yeah, continue. Okay. Anyways, yesterday we had an Amoraic sage that that seemingly was contradicted by a Tanaic sage, and then we answered that by saying Tanoi hi. Tanoi hi means it is a Tanaic dispute, and if you have a Tanaic dispute, very often an Amoraic sage will side with one of the Tanaim over the other. That will happen, yes.
So they're bringing in the Tanaic dispute
to
show how in the first step,
right,
it could not be disproven.
What do you mean?
But they're bringing the Tanaic source. The
Meisvei brought a Tanaic source that contradicted the Amoraic statement. Correct. And that is standing as such, which means we have no way of resolving the contradiction.
So they're bringing in the Tanaic, the other Tanaic sources to dispute. The reason they're telling us to dispute is to show what possible side that the Gufa step could relate to, or not relate to, but
we have to assume that the Amoraic sages, in fact, understood every single Tanaic teachings. That's the way we see it. Okay. Now we always assume they knew it. So the Amoraic statement of Rabbi Elazar, Omer Rabbi Yeshaya. This Amoraic statement, we're going to assume was said only after considering all the Tanaic quotes available, right? Now, the question of the Gemara, or the challenge of the Gemara is that we found the Tanaic quote that clearly contradicts that statement. The resolution of that issue is that we say that it was a Tanaic dispute. In other words, what does it mean when we say it's a Tanaic dispute?
That you have two different opinions from two different.
You have two different Tanaic opinions. And since you have two different Tanaic opinions, yeah, if you have two different Tanaic opinions, then what? Then we assume that the Amoraic, we're going to assume that the Amoraic opinion is contradicting.
No, not contradicting. It's coming down on one side or the other of the dispute. Right, we're assuming that the Amoraic source is going to come down on one side or other of the dispute to see how he holds.
We're going to assume that Amoraic statement was only said after considering this Tanaic dispute and determining that one was more valid over the other.
Right.
Yeah? Good? Excellent. Hold on. There we go. Let's try to get this moving over here. All right. Where are we? Now, again, the Tanaic dispute was whether you have to say Havdalah, whether you have to say one or whether you have to say three as a minimum for making Havdalah. When we make the blessing after Shabbat, in order to sanctify God for the end of Shabbat, we either have to say a minimum of one or a minimum of three, and there are two opinions. One says we have to say a minimum of three, and one says we have to say a minimum of one. Now we're going to go on to a completely different discussion for today, if you don't mind. You ready? Completely different discussion from yesterday, although, of course, it's on the same topic. All right? And we're going to be starting from, where are we starting from? Omar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was a great Amoraic sage, Rabbi Yeshua, the son of Levi. Okay, Omar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. He said as follows: Hamavdil tzorich sheyoymar me'ein havdolis or amuris batoira. Whenever a person sanctifies God for ending the Shabbat, which is the Havdalah blessing, you must say the separations that God said in the Torah, which means you can't just make up what you think God separated. Now, I just want to explain this so that people here understand, is that when we make the blessing after Shabbat to separate Shabbat from the rest of the week, when we say that, we bless God for separating things, right? You'd say, why are we blessing God for separating things? Because it's very important that there are unique qualities to different things, and certain things are better, certain things are worse, some things are bigger, certain things are smaller. There's a lot of reasons why God separated one thing from the other. God separated heaven from earth. What do we say when we say today our Havdalah? What do we say? Hamabdil ben kodesh l'choil. God differentiates from holy to mundane. Ben or l'choshech, between light and darkness. God separates light from darkness. Ben yom hashvi'i l'sheish shemei hamasa. Hamabdil ben kodesh l'choil ben or l'choshech ben yom hashvi'i l'sheish shemei hamasa. And the seventh day of the week, which is Sabbath, from the 6 days of action, which means 6 days of work. So God made all these separations, separated one thing from the next, right? Good. Now, says Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi that when we make the blessing of Havdalah, we must use biblical quotes for when God separated. Like, for example, it says God separated dark from light. So since it says God separated darkness from light, therefore we say that in the Havdalah. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says that every time, each and every quote that you do, every blessing that you do for God separating has to be a quote from the Torah, which means you can't bless. For example, what would be us? Let's see how many people over here perhaps could come up with something original. What would we say that God separated one thing from the next? What could that be?
Which is forbidden?
Again, no, like we're blessing God for separating two things. What are two things?
Yaakov from Esau.
Yaakov from Esau. Good.
Yeah.
Rocks from animals.
Rocks from animals.
Male and female.
Male and female.
After they were together.
Huh?
They were one and then they were split.
Yeah, so God differentiated. God separated many things. And you could come up with many examples of things that God separated. That's 100% possible. Water. Well, that's actually the higher waters and the lower waters. It actually says in the Torah. So that's actually in the Bible where it clearly says God separated the higher waters from the lower waters. We're talking about something where it doesn't say what God separated, right? We just know that he did separate them. Yes.
Rabbi, this question is incomplete.
Yes. Is it?
I know one.
No, it actually is not incomplete. The question is incomplete. I, by accident, gave you part of the answer. You see there's a question mark there. And usually when you see a question mark, that usually defines the end of the question.
Oh, so you accidentally gave the answer.
Oh, the guy sees the answer, and that makes it a bigger question. I accidentally wrote the question and the answer, right? Usually I write the question, and then I write the answer, and then I separate the answer on a different page, and I give out. That's just the way I work, right? Because if I want to remember what I'm supposed to remember by heart, the answer, no. So when I'm doing the research, I write a question, and then I write the answer because I just did the research, right? So I have the answer in my head, right? And then I usually separate the answer from the question, and then separate another thing is separated. I separate the answers from the questions. And then I give out the questions to the students. But sometimes by accident, I forget to pull out the answer. And that's why the student came to me and says, I see that it looks like you only gave half the question. I said, no, I gave the whole question and half the answer. He didn't realize that. Anyways, good. Let's continue. So again, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi's statement that we're dealing with says that whenever you're making the blessing on Havdalah on after Shabbat, you must use statements said in the Torah. You cannot make up your own statements. You can't bring your statements from. It has to be clearly stated in the Torah that God separated these two things. Now we're going to say Meisvei. What's Meisvei as a key word? Meisvei. What's Meisvei as a key word? You can't remember. He just said it.
Mind blank.
Right? You're supposed to listen sometimes. That's what he said. He sometimes gets it right.
I don't mind blank.
Brain damage.
Meisvei is a challenge. We're bringing a challenge to this statement. We're going to challenge the validity of this statement. Okay, the statement says, that you must use separations that are said in the Torah. This is going to challenge said statement. We're going to actually say perhaps it's not true. And let's see how we're going to challenge that statement. All right? Say that Havdalah is Hayach. The order of Havdalah is how, right? Meaning, how is the order of Havdalah? Says a Tanaic quote. We are quoting a Tanaic quote that says, what is the orders of Havdalah? And he continues, Oimer, he says, Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol. You need to say who separates holy from mundane. Between light and darkness, between Israel and the rest of the nations, and from the 7th day to the 6 days of work of action, between pure and impure, between the land and the sea and the dry land, between the higher waters, in the lower waters, between Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim, which are the priest class, the Levite class, and the Israel class, which still exists till today. For those of you who don't know, right? For example, we have 2 Levites, myself and Daniel Bendelman, right over here we have 2 Levite people. We're a higher class than you guys. Well, actually you're technically the Levite too, right? You're part of the Levite tribe. There you go. We got actually get 3 Levite tribe people over here, right? And then we're higher class than these guys that are in the lower class citizens. Chas v'shalom. No, it's not higher class, lower class. Huh? No, we're counting all the Jews put together. So, no, huh? I don't think so. Huh? No, I'm including all the Jews. If I was If I was singling out a convert, you'd be okay. But once I mix you with the rest of the Jews, I'm good to go. I can make fun of you as long as I include you in the rest of the Jews. But it's not chas v'shalom. It's not making fun. I know I pulled this little shtick. I made a bit of a shtick over here, and I made as if there's different classes of citizens. The fact is that a Kohen and a Levite do have some level of a spiritual sense that is elevated, and that's because they were given a particular job. They were given something to do. The Kohanim were servicing the temple, and the Levites would come and they would sing. Oh!
Don't we also have to teach halachas as believers?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the Kohen and the priesthood and the Levites were meant to be the educators of the Torah, right? I don't want to get too much off topic, but I always say that if you think about it, the Kohen and the Levites, they would get the tithe. They would get all sorts of gifts. But what they did not get was land. They did not get land ownership in the land of Israel. They could not own land. They actually did own enough land for like a house. You'd have enough land for a house. Today, you'd say, oh, well, that's good enough. But that's only because in today's day and age, very few people need to work in agriculture. As a matter of fact, they say that before the Industrial Revolution, 97% of people were in agriculture. Only 3% had businesses that weren't in agriculture. And the exact opposite is today. Today, 97% of the people are not doing agriculture, and only about 3% of the people are actually doing agriculture, right? So the Levites and the Kohanim, who were about 10% of the nation of Israel, they were, you could think about it. In the whole world, only 3% were not in agriculture. In Israel, ancient Israel, 10% of the nation was not in agriculture, which means the Levites and the Kohanim were not in agriculture. Why not? Why were the Kohens and the Levites not in agriculture? The answer is that it was a built-in mechanism by God for the nation of Israel to become the nation of Israel that they are, which means it was built in that these people would get their needs taken care of. And what do you think they're supposed to do a whole day, right? What are they going to do a whole day?
Learn and teach Torah.
They were supposed to study the Torah and teach the Torah to everybody else. That's what they were there for, right? They were taken care of by the rest of the nation so that they can be the educators, they can be the inspirers, and they can keep the nation together, which is an amazing thing, right? That's why the nation of Israel, people ask, why are Jews so smart? The answer is that let's just argue from a scientific perspective. If you look at the theory of evolution, right, societies evolve in whatever is in the best interest of that society. The nation of Israel had a tremendous interest on being wise, being smart, learning and educating. They even would pay, everybody would pay. You had to pay 10% of your produce to the Levites, who essentially were there to help you study Torah, right? We're living in biblical times. You get to come to yeshiva and learn from a Levite, right? That's the way it was in the Torah. So these guys should be so excited over here, is that you come to my class and you're learning from a Levite. Anybody online, right? You ever learned from a Levite before? Now you did. If you're staying online in my class, you're learning right now from a Levite, right? This is a biblical proportion, right? And by the way, not all Levites today teach, and definitely don't teach Torah. Many Levites today are in business. They're doing the doctors, they're lawyers. I don't know what else they are. They're usually smart. They are usually smart. Amongst the Jews, they're also sometimes smarter, right? Like this guy, Daniel Benjamin. This guy's brilliant genius, right? All the Jews are smart. Well, not all the Jews, but a lot of them. But especially the Cohen and the Levites. That's why all the Dr. Cohens. Cohen is part of the Levite tribe. If you know any Jew by the last name Cohen, chances are they're part of the Levite tribe. They're a Cohen. They're the priesthood, but the priesthood was also part of the Levite tribe.
Will please return to that after Mashiach?
Perhaps, I don't know. When Mashiach comes, maybe the Levites will all become once again, the teachers of the Torah to help educate the rest of the world in the wisdom of God. This could be. Anyways, let's go back to what we're saying in the Gamara. The Gamara quoted a Brisatic quote, which is from the Brisa, from the Tanaic age, which clearly lists a whole list of blessings of separation when one thing is separated from the next. However, if you look at those separations, you will notice that not every single one of them is mentioned in the Torah. Okay? And the Gemara is basically using this to challenge Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, what does he say? He says that every time you mention a separation, you must mention the separations, only the separations that are quoted in the Torah, in the Bible. Here, we clearly have certain things that are separations, but not mentioned in the Torah. Which ones are they? Which ones are not mentioned in the Torah? Yeah. So the Gemara will help us out. Really, the Gemara is expecting that you already know, because of course, you know the entire Bible by heart, right? You should. Of course. Right? By the way, you should know the Yemenite Jews, very often, they know the whole Torah by heart. They teach it to them as a kid, and they knock it into the head. They know with the tune by heart, right? But most of us, unfortunately, don't. So the Gemara is going to help us out. Not always will the Gemara help you out. Sometimes the Gemara is expecting you to figure out by yourself. Over here it will. Yeah? Yeah? And you conclude with Seder Bereshis as it will be discussed in the Rashbam. Others says, we say Yotze Bereshis, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Choyse Mekadosh Yisrael. There's an opinion that says we close the blessing with Mekadosh Yisrael, who makes the Israel holy. Right? Now the Gemara says, the Im Isa, and if there is what? It doesn't say what there is. What is there? If there is what? Meaning, if your opinion is in fact correct, if Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is in fact correct, yeah. If you look in the Bible, it does not say that God separated the sea from dry land. The other ones, it is mentioned in the Torah that they are separated, right? There is some form of separation between one and the other. That it does say, right? However, what are you looking at me like that for?
Just wondering, but he did say to congeal, to stay into one, to go into one area.
Did he say? Does it say that God separated the water from the dry land?
No. But isn't it kind of like the same thing?
It doesn't mention it. It could be that God separated them. Just because it could be that God separated doesn't mean that the Torah says he separated them. Again, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says that when you mention in the blessing God separated something, it has to be quoted from the Torah that God actually separated these things. If it doesn't mention in the Torah that God actually separated these things, then you cannot mention this in your blessing. And here we have a clear Brisatic quote that clearly says that you could use something that's not necessarily mentioned in the Torah, which completely contradicts his opinion. Now we understand how this is a challenge to what he was saying. Big problem. All right? Good. You have a big problem, we need a big solution. How are we going to resolve this? How are you going to resolve this issue? You got to think about it. Well, I don't know if the Gemara tries to resolve the issue. I don't know if you think, I don't know if you're able to figure it out on your own. Maybe you are. Maybe you're that brilliant you could. But let's go into the Gemara. So the Gemara says, Sami mikan ben hayom lacharava. Take out of here that particular separation. In other words, basically cut it out, right? Just doesn't say it. Change history. Take the book, cut out these few words, throw them in the garbage because they weren't meant to be there, and that's it. What?
It's a pretty wild answer.
It's a pretty wild answer. Now, for all those of you listening, if you're not very familiar with the Talmudic way of thinking, I'm about to introduce to you something brilliant. Okay, the Brisatic quote, which was a quote that was passed down for generations of a Tanaic sage, right? Could be, it was a possibility that the quote was misquoted. Okay? Just because you have a quote from somebody doesn't necessarily mean they say it, right? You know, Donald Trump always says they misquoted me, right? Right? Sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not. sometimes they got it smack on and he was just trying to deny it. But other times he was correct. Other times they didn't misquote him. right? So just because, yeah, I actually saw a YouTube once where some lady asked, it was like one of these things where, like the guy gives a speech and then they ask questions. So he says, she said something like, what do you say to the people that say that you think that all blacks or something should leave America or something like that? Like, something really racist, right? And the guy says, I said that? I said that? She's like, yeah, you said that. I said, when did I say that? You can't. It's like you made it up, right? Now, misquoting, you might think that this is a new thing. It is a new thing. Misquoting is a new thing when it comes to maybe cheating and lying and deceiving. And by the way, even that's not new. There's been a lot of liars and cheaters and deceivers throughout the generations. They exist and they existed, right? However, not necessarily is a misquote a deliberate deception. Sometimes it could be a mistake, right? Today we have a typo. The person just tried to type too fast and they threw in a word that didn't belong there. Especially in the Tanaic times, they very often remembered these quotes word for word, right? You had a person that remembered the quote word for word. And then 300 years later, the quote could grow beards and ears and toes and all sorts of things that's not there. That being said, we generally assume a quote is accurate, meaning in the Talmud, if they had a quote from the Tanaic era, they generally assumed it was accurate unless there was reason to think that it was inaccurate, right? Yeah, good. Now, what would be a good reason to think that it's inaccurate? Yosef Zoyar, I want you to put your phone somewhere where you can't see it. I want you to show, I want you to put your phone. Huh? You can't do two things at once. What's that? Oh, very good. You could have a quote that seems to contradict it. What else could you have? What are the other options?
Chinese whispers.
Chinese whispers?
You know, heard of that expression?
No.
Maybe it's English. I say one thing, the guy says it to another, then by the time it goes over like 100 times, words have changed.
I had a story. I may have said this story in this class before, but I think it's a good story to tell you. Is that when I was in school, right? One of our biggest Hakachainik sessions, which basically means the socializing session, was on breakfast. Okay, we had to come at 7:30 in the morning. We would daven Shachris. After Shachris, we'd get a nice breakfast, and we would just in the morning we'd sit around and talk. So we'd have a breakfast, and at one breakfast, I don't even remember what the story was, but I literally told the story of something that happened to me. I said, "Oh, you know what happened to me the other day?" I said it, right? 2 days later, I'm sitting at breakfast, and somebody quotes to me my story and missed a particular point that I thought was an important point to the story. So I told the person, I said, by the way, that's not the way it happened. It happened such and such, And the guy looked me straight in the face and says, listen, don't think you know better than me. Because I heard the story. The person told me that he heard it from the person it happened to. The person I heard the story told me he heard it from the person that it happened to. I said, yeah, but I'm the person that it happened to. So what was the story? I don't remember. I just remember that telling the guy that I'm the one that it happened to, and he was like, Anyways, the point is that very often when you have people pass things down from generation to generation, we have conflicts, we have mistakes, we have additions. And this is actually an important aspect of Talmudic logic. It's important, and it's important to know where and how it is, okay? Again, in order to understand Talmudic logic, you have to understand that there is a consideration that this quote may be misquoted, right? And one of the good indications that something could be misquoted if a great Amoraic sage says something that's so super contradictory to this quote, and by mending the quote just a little bit, without completely ruining the context, okay? Again, if you need to completely ruin the context, well, obviously this quote came from somewhere. We don't think somebody made it up. In the nation of Israel, when we had Torah sages, we didn't assume that people made things up. They didn't just make it up. So the quote has to be somewhat accurate. But if we can make a little bit of mending, if we can mend a little bit here and there, right, to a quote, and make it consistent with an Amoraic sage, we're going to say that, in fact, it was misquoted. For example, over here, you have a whole list of separations. And all of the list of separations that we quoted are all in the Torah except one. So only one of the details are a little bit off. Since only one of the details are a little bit off, and that one detail would completely contradict the Amoraic sage, we say, you know what? Perhaps that is misquoted. Now, and the reason why I explained to you everything I said, because don't come to me tomorrow and say, oh, this Mishnah does not have those words, or this Tanaic quote does not have those words. That's not what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is saying that it's likely that it was misquoted. And since it was likely that it was misquoted, we're not going to allow this quote to overthrow the Amoraic sage, because it's likely and definitely plausible that it was misquoted. And since it was likely and not likely, I think plausible, since it was plausible that it was misquoted, we're not going to allow the quote to overthrow the Amoraic sage. We're just not going to let it happen. Yeah, good.
What if the quote was part of the Torah during the period that the...
Somebody asked an interesting question here. They asked, is God's name the Torah?
Is what?
Is God's name Torah?
No.
And what's
no,
Torah?
they're asking if the Torah is...
No,
What's
yeah,
Torah?
and then look at that.
Torah-
Is your God named Torah?
Torah is known as Ammon.
And no, it's God's name Torah.
Torah is known as Ammon. Ammon, nursling. Ammon, nursling.
Anyways, let's just make it clear. The Torah is what many people in the English call the Bible. There's a big difference between the terminology of Bible. Bible just means book. The book. Why? Where did you have the word holy in Bible? It actually has so how do you say book? How do you say book? In Latin. In Latin, how do you say book? Yeah, Bible would be a book. I heard. I don't know Latin. Maybe you could go learn some Latin and figure it out. But it's from my understanding, is that yeah. Anyways, the Torah is the Bible, the book of God. Okay, God's book is the Bible, the Torah. All right, let's continue. Where are we? Where are we? Oh, so we're saying that it's plausible that that particular part of the quote was misquoted, and therefore we're not going to use the quote to negate an Amoraic sage, right? And by the way, I tell people studying the Gemara, Ru'uvein, when you're studying the Gemara, you must consider this a little bit like a court case. When we have a sage that says something, and then the Gemara challenges that sage, you have to look at it as innocent until proven guilty, which means a great sage is assumed to be correct. Only if you could come with an absolute proof will we negate that sage. Otherwise, we're going to keep that sage exactly where he is, right? We're not going to overthrow them at all, right? We're not going to overthrow a sage just because what? Just because of a little bit of evidence. You need to have strong evidence. And the very fact that it could be, the very fact that it's plausible, the very fact that it's plausible that there was a misquote means that we cannot use this to overthrow this opinion. All right, let's continue. What's that? Again, when we have a Tanaic quote, if we're going to tell you that the entire quote is faulty, we're not always going to do that. There are sometimes we do, but when we say an entire quote is faulty, it depends what the source of that is. There were different sources of Tanaic quotes. Okay. For example, the Mishnah is the most authoritative sources of Tanaic quotes. Okay? We're never going to say the entire Mishnah is incorrect. Sometimes we'll say that there was a little bit of a word difference which could have made a difference in the actual outcome. We will say that sometimes, okay? But not always. Good? Continue. Yeah? Okay. Anyways, moving on. So we basically resolve that. We say, Sami mekan ben hayom lacharaba, take that out, gone. If so, says the Gemara, ben yom hashvi l'sheish shemami nami, me'en chasimahu. If so, the yom hashvi l'sheish shmei amasa, the last thing that it says, is similar to the closing, and therefore, if it's similar to the closing, botzer chada, you're missing one. Because what did we say? You should have 7. You should have 7 differentiations. We counted exactly 8, right? Now, if we counted 8, 7 of them were the 7 separations. One of them was because you need to be similar to the closing, so that makes 7, which makes perfect sense. But if you try to cut out this one separation, you're down to 7 with only 6 closings, and the 7th is there. Correct. And then we have a problem because now the logic seems to be crackling, right? So again, we could easily say there was a bit of a misquote, but now if you're saying there was a bit of a misquote, you're missing, the whole balance is off. You're missing the whole concept. You're missing the whole context of the thing. Yeah? Good. And that we're not going to say. We're not going to say that the entire context of a biblical of a Tanaic quote is completely wrong. We're not going to say that. All right? Good. Let's continue. You ready? Good. Where are we? Huh? So we're missing one. We said we're missing one, and you don't have 7. Omre, I should have put omre as a keyword. I did not. Did I put omre as a keyword here? No. Omre literally means they say, right? Do you know how smart they are? You know they? You ever heard about they? They know a lot of stuff, you know. You ever heard about them?
They know everything.
They know everything. And the Gemara actually uses that same terminology. That's what's one of the cool things about Gemara. I love it in the Gemara when you find a similar terminology to modern terminologies. I love it. It's so much fun. Here is one of those terminologies where it uses the word they. They say. Omre, they say. They say. Omre is they say. Now, what does it mean in context? When we say amrei, which means they say, we actually mean it almost identical to the way we use that terminology today in modern language. Which means amrei means they say, it's referring to unknown Talmudic scholars. The same way when you say they say, you're talking about unknown scientists. There's some scientists out there that may say something, right? That's what they mean, no? Isn't that what they mean? There may, again, when you say they say, let's say you're saying about scientists, they say, you're basically saying an unknown scientist or unknown scientists say as follows, right?
Yes.
Right? So in the Gemara, it's the same thing. It's unknown Talmudic sages said this, which means at some point in time, some Talmudic sage says this. However, we don't know who said it.
It's in journalism. It's
Correct. An anonymous source. So Umre is kind of like they say it's an anonymous source, but it's not just an anonymous source. Very often it is a little bit like a rumored thing, you know? You know how you have in a rumored, you know, when you say they say, you're basically saying, I heard that somebody said that they say, right? So at some point in the Talmudic academies, there was if you want to say a rumor that said that particular thing. Yeah? Good. Anyways, we have some questions over there, but we're going to get to them a little later because we need to finish the Talmud first, and then maybe we'll answer some questions if they're relevant. Generally, we answer questions that are relevant to the Talmudic class. If it's not, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
I have a question on the term omre.
Yes.
Because
What's the question?
It's saying they say.
Yeah.
Now we don't know. It's they say. Are they a group of rabbis from?
They're definitely Talmudic. No, they're no, sir.
Amoraim,
Amoraim. They're Amoraim. The Amoraic era.
They are.
They're correct. Amray is Amoraic era sages, but we don't know who they are.
What does and Amoray is so?
Amoraim.
Mishnah's
The Mishnah is the Tanaic era.
Then it's
what?
authority. It's
The Mishnah.
Tanaim.
No, all the Tanoim have equal authority. The Mishnah does not have greater authority than other Tanaic quotes. As a matter of fact, very often the Gemara will side with a Tanaic quote that was not in the Mishnah against what the Mishnah says. It happens all the time. As a matter, we have that in our class a few times, where there's going to be a Mishnah and then the Gemara is going to bring a Brisa and then determine that the halacha is not according to that Mishnah, but according to the Brisa. We do that. So again, all the Tanaic, the sages of the Tanaic era had authority over the sages of the Amoraic era. That's it. That's all I could say. All right, good. Where are we? Oh, so Amrei, they said as follows: Koyanim Leviim v'Yisraelim terei mile ninu. The separation between Kohanim, Levites, and the Israelites are actually two separate separations. Why? So there's a separation between the Kohen and the Levite. There's a separation from the Levite to the Israelite. And since there are two, even though there's three categories, but there's two separations between them. So therefore, says the Gemara that when we mention the separation between Kohanim, Levim, and Yisraelim, which is mentioned in the Torah, as we're going to actually learn the next part, listen, the next part of the Talmud, we're actually going to quote the Torah, we're going to quote the Bible, where the Bible actually mentions separating all of the above things, including separating the Kohanim from the Levites and separating the Levites from Israelites, right? So we have quotes for all of that, right? However, originally we counted Kohen and Levim Yisraelim as one separation, and therefore, if we pull out the one that we want to pull out, we're only left with 6 separations, and we said we're supposed to have 7. But now the Gemara is saying, hold on, the Kohen and Levim Yisraelim are really 2 separate separations, which means you have to count them as 2. If you count them as 2, we're back to 7.
So now we have 7 and 1 similarity.
Correct.
So
Correct.
We're back in balance.
Now we're back in balance. Everything's in order. We have everything good. Yes. Now the question is, should we continue the Gemara and pretty much finish this entire week's quota? Or should we go to the Rashbam and understand what we just learned in a little deeper?
Is it going to put us out of balance?
Huh?
I would like to go to Rashbam because I don't want to lose focus on this subject.
What's that?
I would personally like to go to Rashbam.
Yeah,
I think the Rashbam is good. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Let's go to the Rashbam.
40th day after conception.
Yeah, why are you reading my computer screen? It's my computer screen, right? It's his computer screen, but it's in front of me. All right. Yes, very good. Everybody online is welcome to comment, and people are welcome to comment on their comments online. But in this class, we will only discuss what is relevant to this class, unless it's a question like was asked before, something that I think is important to correct in a moment, and then we will deal with it. Huh? There's heresy on this?
No, that guy is an idol worshiper.
Yeah, he's an idol worshiper? How do you know that?
Because he said Yoshi is God, so he's an idol worshiper.
All right. They said he's God?
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Yeah,
He did say that?
Yoshi,
Let's see.
Yoshi
Where?
is.
No, he said Lord. Lord is it depends. It depends. Put it this way: Christianity from a Talmudic or Jewish perspective, there's actually a dispute whether it's considered idol worship or not. And my personal opinion is that the reason why there's a dispute is because it could be that one rabbi spoke to one Christian and the other rabbi spoke to a different Christian. And by the way, very often amongst Christians, they have very, very different beliefs, right? And therefore, it could be that one rabbi, when he was analyzing the beliefs of one Christian, he decided that's complete idol worship. And he was analyzing the beliefs of another Christian, and he says, no, it's not. Thank you. Huh?
Catholics and the Protestants are heretics.
So again, I'm not going to get into details because it's not what's it called? It's not relevant to get into the details. The fact is that if a person believes that God could in any way is not almighty, almighty means that he can do anything and nothing could overpower him, because by definition, the creator God created everything, and therefore everything is subservient to that one creator being. Anybody that denies that is a complete questionable heretic, and I don't care who or what they think that is, by the way. Okay, I'll give you an example. I was once speaking to somebody. I'm not going to mention what religion they were from, but maybe you might guess. But I have a discussion with them, and so they asked me, what do you mean you believe everything comes from God? I said, yes. So they said, what about evil? I said, well, he created it for a purpose. He had a purpose for creating evil. They're like, what? How could you blaspheme by calling God the creator of evil? I said, so who created the evil? Where did it come from? He says, the devil created evil. So I said, so in other words, you have two gods. You have the God of good and the God of evil. You have the creator of good and the creator of evil as two separate beings. That is complete heresy, because it's not monotheism. That is believing in, that's polytheism. You believe that there's a God of good and God of evil, right? The true belief in godliness from the Torah's perspective is that there's a single God that is the creator, that everything comes from it, and therefore it has total and absolute control over everything, right? Nothing can do anything to it or to God. I don't know if you want to call it it or him, because it's not necessarily a he or a she, but it's, no, Shechina is God's dwelling, which is not God. It's when God comes down to our reality. Anyways, that's the general story there, and I'm not going to get into the details because it's not necessarily relevant to our particular Talmudic study, right? We got to keep on topic, which is very easy to get off topic, and that's actually why, unfortunately, a few months ago we got shut down. Right, we shut down the whole feed because students were complaining that we got too much off topic, and we have to keep on topic. This is a Talmudic class, and anybody that wants to talk anything else, that's fine, just not with me. Right, a different time, right? When my producer gets his act together, we might make a podcast where you can ask other random questions.
Oh, I'll watch that with you.
He's going to watch the movie. It's a movie. Okay, good. Let's continue. Right, where are we? Tanoihi. We started from Tanoihi today. I mean, it is a Tanaic dispute between one and the other. What is the Tanaic dispute? Let's go. The Tanaic dispute is between Abba Rabbi Yochanan B'nei Kedoshim. We said the sons of the holy ones. We said that there was let's skip that for now. Let's go down to Seder Havdalos is really. Or one before that. The one of the Hamuras Baterik in Hanach de la Kamon, Seder Havdalos, the order of Havdalos. Hainu Sheva Havdalos, which is 7. We need to make 7 differentiations between each other, right? 7 between differentiations. When we make Havdalah, when we say the blessing after the Sabbath, we have to make 7 separations, and they all, as we said in the Talmud, they all have to be biblical quotes, right? Hainu Sheva Havdalah, Afal Gavdi Shmoina. He says there actually is 8. If you count the ones that we mentioned, there are actually 8 of them, right? So he tells in advance that the 8th one, even though you count 8, the 8th one is similar to the closing, and therefore we don't count it. Yeah? The chosim is Seder Bereshis. We say we close in Seder Bereshis. This is actually very interesting to all you Jews out there, that you every single week you say the blessing Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'Chol. You actually, there's a dispute as to what should be said over there. Okay, there is one opinion that says we don't say Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'Chol. We say Seder Bereshis. We say Baruch Seder Bereshis. Baruch Atah Hashem Seder Bereshis. You ever heard anybody saying that? No. You know why? Why didn't you hear anybody saying that? Huh? You like one? Baruch Seder Bereshis. The one that orders Genesis, which means he organizes the genesis of humanity, of the world, of the thing. It's nice. It's blessing God for organizing Seder, which means he makes a Seder. He organizes the universe. right? Is the universe organized?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Of course it is.
In some ways it is, some ways it isn't. Anyways, let's continue.
Correct.
Where are we? Yeah, good. So one person says that because it says that on Saturday night is when God began to organize creation. Why? Why did God organize creation Saturday night? I thought he did it on Sunday. He rested Shabbos, yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
so most of Shabbos you can work again.
Right. So why is that called organizing?
Because working is organization.
Well, I guess you can say that first he created things, and he created the 7 days, right? He created 7 days, and then starting from the beginning of the 8th day, which was Saturday night, he began to organize, meaning he took what he created and began organizing it, perhaps. That seems to be what it's saying. Yeah? Good. Yeah? Well, we're running late already. Wow, it's late. I don't know. I think we should maybe...
12:14.
Yeah?
12, yeah.
It is a bit late, and so let's end over there for today, right? There's only one question here that I feel is worth mentioning, although this guy keeps on erasing them. I don't know why he's erasing his own questions. I'm about to answer them, and he erases them. Shall I answer his question that he erased, or no? What do you think?
Yeah, what's the question?
He asked about the Torah and peace.
Okay.
Right? And the fact is that the Torah is there. It actually says the purpose of the Torah is to bring peace or shalom amongst mankind. Now you have to understand that the word shalom is not peace. It's not. I know a lot of people say shalom means peace, but that's not true. Right? As a matter of fact, the word peace and shalom are exact opposites. The word peace comes from the word pieces, even though it's spelled different, but it sounds the same. And therefore, when you say peace, it's like you have your peace, I have my peace, which means you live by yourself and leave me alone, and I live by myself and leave me alone, which basically, you know what they say when somebody dies? They say, may he rest in peace, right? That's when you have peace, when you're dead, right? You want to be dead? No. So then why you want peace? If you only get peace when you're dead, then why do you want peace? Peace, and they say peace and quiet. You want peace and quiet. Go ahead. Right? In Judaism, we have the word shalom. Shalom does not mean peace. It does not mean peace. As a matter of fact, the word shalom comes from the word shalem, which means whole. Whole means you got everything you need, right? Which means you're complete, right? At the current moment, when you don't have peace, means you're broken. Okay, when you're fighting with somebody, when you don't have a sense of tranquility, then you are broken in some way. In order to be whole, in order to be complete, you have to be living in a way where you know where you're going, you know what you're doing, you know what you're going to accomplish, and you're not afraid of getting bombed on your head. Right? It's true. Right? So the word shalom is actually a much better way of describing what you should want than peace. Because peace just means quiet, but what happens if you have peace? You could have peace in solitary confinement, right? It's peaceful, right? Very peaceful. They lock the door, no one's there, you're all by yourself, no one touches you, you get fed, yeah, very, very quiet, right? Very peaceful, right? Well, you want that? Huh? God forbid it. It's one of the worst things you could have, right? So you're not interested in peace, you're interested in shalom. Shalom is the true goal of the Talmud. Shalom, as I told you, is wholeness, is when you're complete, when you have everything that you are meant to have, you feel that you're going towards your destiny, you feel meaning, you feel purpose, whatever your soul and your body, by the way, whatever your soul and your body needs, it has, right? That's true shalom, and that is the true destiny and the true goal of the Torah, is to create shalom. Shalom is where everybody feels that they are complete. They're complete in every aspect of their own creation, whether it's body, soul, and that is true shalom, and that's what the Torah is there to create. And Bezrat Hashem, true shalom will come and will exist when the Mashiach comes. That is when the true peace or the true shalom, the true completeness of our reality will exist at that point. Prior to that point, it will not exist. However, we can try here and there to push a little bit more shalom, a little bit less shalom, etc. Yeah? So somebody over here says, why did the Talmud change the sense? So first, the second you say, why did the Talmud change something, You first have to show me a source that is prior to the Talmud, which is about 1,500 years old, and trust me, you probably don't have it, right? You don't have any source that says otherwise. That's from before then. The nation of Israel, it's proof all the way from the books of Moses that in order to be a member of the nation of Israel, you have to be born to a Jewish mother. Okay, that's all the way from the Bible, from the books of Moses, and that's the reality. Tribes very often went by the father. That's usually in the Bible. You see the tribe went by the father, but the nationality went by the mother. I'm not going to get into why, but that's just a little bit of food for thought till next time, because we got to close the feed today. We are attempting to be on live every single day, 11 or 11:15 Israel time. You have to figure out whatever time that is for you, wherever you are in the world. And unfortunately, sometimes our producer didn't make it like yesterday, and that's why we weren't on yesterday. But if he's here, we'll do it. If somebody sponsors me a computer like this, maybe I'll start doing this every day. I'll come with my computer and set it up myself. But until that point, I have to rely on this lovely individual here. And yeah, so that's going to be it for today. Thanks for joining us. If you didn't subscribe, do it immediately, right now, this second. Don't wait, right? Subscribe. And oh, by the way, we actually opened up a WhatsApp group where you can stay in touch. And this way, every day, we're going to send you a link to the feed. So, because sometimes it's hard to find it on Facebook. It's hard to find our feed on Facebook, right? So how could I put it on here? I'll put right now. I could put on the
description after.
We can add it. Could we do it now for everybody that's online to give them? They could join our WhatsApp group. They could join our WhatsApp group. And let's see, I could go over here. We'll put on the WhatsApp group, and then you can get informed. You'll get the link when we start the class.
Comments and then edit the description after the video.
Yeah. Okay. So how do I do that? I have over here. Okay. Here I have a link. Here, video search. Where am I? Here. Invite via link. Okay. I'm inviting with a link. I'm sharing the link. Let's see if I could share the link to YouTube. No, it doesn't let me share it to YouTube. No.
Just copy the link.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna, oh, you know what, I could do that, right? I'm gonna copy the link. The link is copied. Now I can go back to the video and I'm gonna put it in. Okay, so if you wait just 1 second, you're gonna get the link to the WhatsApp group. And once you get the link to the WhatsApp group, where are we here? Oh, where did it go?
You have to end the video so you can add it.
No, I could do it over here. I just need to go here. Here, where are we? Why doesn't it come out the live one? Okay, hold on, live. Hold on, I'm almost there. Here, okay, it's gonna come out just in 1 second. I'm gonna put it right now in the comments. Where did I put the comments here? Report here. They don't even let me put comments here. Here, more. Let's see here. Spiritual videos about. Why doesn't it let me comment? Huh?
I don't know, but we can add it to the description.
You know what? I'm gonna put it right now. Can I put it in here? No, it doesn't let me do it.
Not until the stream's over.
Not until the stream's over. But why doesn't it let me? How come they could comment, but I can't comment? Hold on, maybe it's over here. No, it's not. Huh? How come I can't comment? Maybe I'm on a phone. It doesn't let me. No, they probably would let you comment on a phone.
No, it won't. Huh? It'll block certain links too.
Why didn't it let me comment here? Hold on. Oh, no. That's that.
Yeah, no, that. Oh, wait.
No.
Over here?
Where? No, I can't figure out how to do it. Okay, we're going to add it right now to the description. In the next 2 minutes, it's going to be in the description. And once it's in the description, you can join our WhatsApp group. And this way you can get the link automatically. How come you could do it here, but you can't do it? You know what? How about this? I'll read it out. Here's a good idea. I'll read it out.
Send it to me on WhatsApp. I can copy it to the description.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to put it in right now. I'm going to put it into the WhatsApp group that's there. It's technology here. Paste. All right, you just got it in the WhatsApp group. Do you have the WhatsApp group that we? Yeah, there you go. You have it there. Dismiss. Go up there and copy paste. And once you copy paste, they can join our WhatsApp group. We figured out how to do this. Oh, there you go. It's right now in the description. The WhatsApp group that you can be here. Oh, there it goes. You got it. So right now, if you click on that, you can join our WhatsApp group. And we will be updating about this class specifically in that WhatsApp group, which essentially means we're going to send a link every day when we start. so that you don't have to look for our class. It'll be in the WhatsApp group. We will also send the handouts for our WhatsApp group. Okay, there are handouts that we make for our WhatsApp group as well, and you will be able to get all that from joining the link. So you put it in the description too.
Something's wrong with the keyboard.
All right. Well, it's right there. It's right there, and that's that. And yes, remember, please do not use this WhatsApp group for anything but class concept. If there's anything else, then obviously I might have to remove some people. But there you go. Anybody on, you can click the link there and join our WhatsApp group, and you will be kept informed when we begin a class. Okay? Well, good. I think that's it. Let's leave it to that. Yeah.